Tonight is the season finale of the Draft Countdown podcast, and we continue to look ahead to the 2024 NFL Draft. Tonight, our man Nino from Titles and CFB Nation is going to join us. We're going to break down the defensive guys. Coming up next on the Draft Countdown podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Draft Countdown podcast. I'm your co-host, Brian Bosarge, joined as always by my co-host, Shane P. Hallam. Shane, 343 days, 22 hours, 58 minutes, 22 seconds away from the 2024 NFL Draft.
And I'm excited to talk defense. We got offense done last week with Coach Sheps, and I'm excited to talk defense tonight as we kind of prep for some guys to keep an eye on and watch next season.
Yeah, that's kind of going to be the goal. We're going to kind of get it wrapped up tonight, and we're going to take a nice few months off as we get really honed in and prepared for the 2024 draft season. Shane, I'm sure you got some more nursery adjustments that have to be made in between now and then as well. So you got that to look forward to. But there was a trade this week, Shane, and the Cleveland Browns continue to add to their defense. They're pairing edge rusher Zadarius Smith to go opposite of Myles Garrett. They acquired Zadarius Smith at a 2025 6th and 7th round pick. Minnesota picks up a 2024 5th and a 2025 5th.
And it seemed like this was inevitable for him to kind of move on at some point. So I think the Browns, once again, got a pretty good deal here. These picks are obviously we're talking 25 for the most part, well in advance. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I think the Browns roster on paper looks really good, but usually that hasn't worked out for them. So hopefully for Browns fans it goes well, but I'm always a little hesitant.
They can acquire every piece of defense they want. If Deshaun Watson doesn't play better than he did in 2022, it's not going to matter.
Yeah, right. That's the key. So we'll see what happens. Our division might be a tough one here, Brian, coming up this year.
I feel good about it. I don't know how well you feel about it, but I feel okay.
I feel better than consensus on the Steelers, so I still feel pretty good.
That's fair. All right, you ready to talk to 2024 draft?
Yes.
All right. Well, let's bring in our man here. He knows all about ball. He knows all about these prospects. And I got to talk some defensive 2024 guys with him on his podcast. So I figured, hey, let's bring him on and talk with him on here. He is our man, Nino Brown from Titles and CFB Nation. Nino, how the hell are you tonight?
I'm great. I can't complain. I'm with the upper echelon talent in this community with Shane and yourself, Brian. I appreciate any opportunity I get to come on and chop it up with you guys. So I appreciate this.
It's great having you all, man. It's always a good time. Before we get into these 2024 guys, because it came up last night, so I figured I'd bring this up with the panel of experts here. NBA had their draft lottery last night where the future of basketball gets to the San Antonio Spurs, who had the third worst record or whatever. Is this something the NFL should do, or will they ever do it?
Those are two different questions. I think those are two very different questions.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I absolutely should not. Like, it is not something the NFL needs to do. I think we saw last year with what happened with the Texans, like tanking is not a thing because you'll get fired. You're going to get fired essentially. And even the teams that try to tank or maybe have or been rumored to have, like, don't do it very well. It's not easy to do well when you have that many players. So I think that's the thing. Will they ever do it? I think seeing, and look, I didn't watch it. I mean, I saw Twitter blow up, but seeing the spectacle and the talk of it, we know the NFL likes to be the topic of conversation. So to have another event where people are going to watch, tune in, advertisers are going to pay, and people are going to be talking about the NFL, that might entice them to want to do it. So I'm not going to say it's never going to happen because I think it might, but I really shouldn't. I think it'd be a big, big problem.
Yeah, that's just bad news, Brian. Like, Detroit had the worst record by about 5 or 6 losses, and they got the 5th pick. Like, that's just terrible.
Could you imagine next year Arizona or whoever is so bad, and then they end up with the 5th pick in the draft after that?
The fan bases would go bananas in the NFL. You think NBA's bad? NFL would be burning cities down over it. It's crazy. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if the NBA is tanking and this is what your deal is, then fix the way of not allowing them to tank. Like, load management is garbage, so get rid of it. You know what I'm saying?
The thing is, though, with the NBA and you can tank more effectively there because you can take 1 or 2 players out and the whole team has changed.
Yeah.
You can't do that in the NFL. There's too many moving pieces, and one player is not going to have that grand effect on a 53-man roster. So no, I don't think the NFL should do it.
Look, I want to say, I put it out on Twitter. I was like, tell me how this disincentivizes tanking. And maybe I don't understand. Like, you can comment on the video or tweet at me, but you still have to be, if you're a bottom 3 team, then you have the highest percentage chance. It's like, don't I still want to tank? Don't I still, maybe I don't
that to me incentivizes more tanking, right? Because all you got to do is get in the bottom 3. Then you don't have to be the bottom 1.
Well, that's what a lot of people said. Like, it incentivizes not being god awful, but you still just want to be awful enough. And I'm like, then who cares? Like, who cares?
Yeah. I mean, if you're an NBA guy, though, if you go back to the last 4 or 5 drafts, the top 3 guys is maybe the top 2 guys hit. You know what I mean? Like, if you go back to the Tatum draft, like, Marco Fultz was supposed to be the best thing. He went number 1, and you don't even know who that guy is anymore. Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Tatum could possibly be going to the titles show. So, I don't know. The whole tanking thing's odd. Like, there's just teams that have just been tanking forever. Do I think the Spurs tank? Probably not. But now Popovich has got a coach for the next 5 years because they're getting that kid from overseas.
Won a lot of money on that last night. By the way,
I had a feeling it was going. And the NBA is kind of like a movie, so there's a little bit of a script.
Shane can tell you, I messaged him the day before. I said the Spurs get the top, they win it.
Yeah, that's the only way Pop was staying in the NBA and not retiring.
All right, we've talked enough about the NBA. Let's move on. Nobody cares watching this show about the NBA. Let's talk edge rushers for the 2024 NFL draft class. And a guy I haven't focused on, but I did focus a lot on Will Anderson last year. His teammate Dallas Turner he's not as good as Will Anderson, right? Or is he?
Like, I don't think he's at that Will Anderson level at this point. I think we could be talking about Dallas Turner in a year and saying, this guy is there. We saw him as a true freshman have a ton of success. I think a lot of times using Will Anderson as that way to do it. And Anderson was still dominating with the 17.5 sacks. And last year took a step back, like a lot of Alabama's defenders did in terms of the pass rush. They're a little more timid on the pass rush side. So I think Turner has the skill set to be very similar to Anderson. Stand up, edge rusher, light, but I don't think he's on that level yet. He's not even my edge one at this point. But still, a top player in this class. Ultimately, he's in my top 10 overall.
I agree with Shane. I don't think he's as good as Will. Will showed you pretty much 2.5 years of dominance. I mean, the numbers might not have been as large last year, but he's still like his play. You could see it on the field. Dallas, I don't think even has as much physicality as Will did, especially going downhill. And this would be the year he has to kind of show out to really make a name for himself. Where Will going into this year could have probably just took the year off and still would have been a top 10 draft pick. So I don't think Dallas is at the same level as Will. I think Will's kind of is close to that generational guy. Close, not totally, but he's close.
One guy I do want to talk about, and this is the only guy I told Nino ahead of time that we were going to talk about. I got to hear y'all explain Chop Robinson to me from Penn State.
Yeah, look, I like what we've seen. Obviously, it was a big recruit going to Maryland, transferred over to Penn State. And I thought this past year, he really commanded the edge for them, not only in terms of rushing the passer, but, Chop Robinson, I thought, did really well in terms of playing the run, setting the edge that way, tackles for losses. Just a solid overall player, another very quick first step guy who's tough. The athleticism and strength, I think, is going to be there, like most of the Penn State prospects are. So I'm a fan. I don't think we've seen the upside for Chop Robinson yet, but I think he's on that kind of first round fringe for me.
Yeah, Chop's my guy. He's my outside guy. Brian says I like guys with funny names. That's what he tries to tell me. I like all the guys with funny names, but I just think he showed a little bit last year in the Maryland game. Like that was his revenge game. I transferred over, and you can ask Baby Tua about that one. He had a couple sacks in that one. The Michigan game with the five total tackles, 4 solo. He's quick, like you said, explosive. He can bend well and get around the edge, and he's kind of, is it 4.6 speed for a guy that's 6'4", 260, 250, right around there. So I think this year is going to be the year where he takes the next step. But he gave a little preview going down the pipe last year.
Yeah, a guy that flashed a lot to me in the games I saw was JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State. Did I get that right? Is that
yeah, look, you nailed it. I'm proud of you, Brian.
So, Shane, you got a couple of Buckeyes here on this list. We're going to talk about a lot of Buckeyes tonight, to be honest. That's what happens when you amass that much talent. But between Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, what do you guys see with those pair of bookends?
I think Tuimoloau is the real deal. Mm-hmm. I think he's not super consistent. And I think fit is going to be interesting because he is pushing 280. I've had him D-line, I've had him edge. I'm like, they play him kind of all over. I mean, he's definitely played edge last year. That's where he's going to play this year. So it's the best place to have him. But I could see, more of a 5 technique player. But I mean, the dominance against Penn State, just, big, explosive, closing speed. Even the hands and awareness is really, really good. So, I think the upside there is we've seen it. Jack Sawyer, we haven't seen it. Jack Sawyer definitely has the talent, kind of Zach Harrison-esque, right? Where it's there, but you just haven't seen the beast unleashed for Jack Sawyer yet. So it wouldn't even surprise me if maybe we're talking about Jack Sawyer in a year and he doesn't come out and kind of, waits and gets better. But, still pretty high on my list because I think the upside of Jack Sawyer at his size, strength, is absolutely off the charts. So we're talking top 10 potential. So I'm still in, but yeah, this Ohio State front seven is just ridiculous.
Yeah, geez. I mean, everybody over there is probably going to go, in the first 3 rounds. That's eligible to get drafted in Ohio State. But JT, I'm not even attempting his last name because I'm terrible with all that. He's him. He's that dude. He showed you everything. He took on everybody last year, and he's got it. His closing speed is just ridiculous. He is elite when it comes to that. He's got a good bend. I love him a lot. Jack, like you said, all the intangibles are there. All the numbers and physical traits are there. I don't even know if we're going to be able to see it this year because I think JT is just going to take that next step and just put himself in that category of being the dude. And I think that Jack might be living in the shadows of JT again this season. I don't think anybody can stop that guy. The way he can move, and his versatility, his athleticism. The last 6 or 7 games, he was just locked and loaded. And that's all you kept hearing about was JT, JT, JT. So he just jumps off the page and the screen when you watch him.
Yeah, no doubt. Another team with a pair of edge rushers, Washington, Braylon Trice, and let's see if I can, Zion Tupoa Fatui from Washington. One coming off, came off the injury last year, so still kind of getting his. This is a year I think maybe he puts it all back together again. But Braylon Trice, I'm not that familiar with.
Yeah, we saw ZTF ultimately as a fresh, sophomore, second year, 2020 is where he really burst onto the scene, looked like a stud. Then the year after ended up having the injury, clearly wasn't back last season. I think it was a good idea to stay in school, kind of get healthy, could be a potential, Senior Bowl type player. But I think Tupelo Fatui is just so good at reading recognition of what the offense is doing, adjusting to what his opponent is doing. I think he's going to survive, even if he lost a little bit with the injury. So I still have him in my top 5 edge rushers. Braylon Trice, he was the one that kind of took over, for this. He's more that big body, tough, strong, plays low, drives you backwards. I mean, the bull rushes that he brought to get into the backfield, I thought were just phenomenal. I think he definitely ate up some of the weaker offensive tackles that he played and struggled with some of the better ones. But another guy that's just, has a big upside in certain schemes. Washington, going to be another good squad this year.
Yeah, I like Trice. He had, close to 600 snaps last year. I mean, he's got a high motor. And like, Shane was saying, he's tough against the run. He's got a firm base. His upper body strength, he can stack and shed the blockers. And he's good laterally. He can chase the pursuit. I mean, 67 pressures, 44 QB hurries, and 15 hits, 8 sacks. He benefited, obviously, from ZTF not being there. But they also had another gentleman who was Eaton who transferred. So that defense, that defensive line has dogs. I know Shane's probably going to disagree with me, but I think Braylon Trice can pass ZTF this year. I just have a feeling. I don't know if ZTF is fully healthy. Braylon Trice, his body structure and his size and the speed, I don't think we've seen all of him yet, and I think he can evolve this season as well.
No, I think it's very possible. I'm not going to dispute that because I think both. You can flip them both of my rankings, right. And hey, that's what happened. Tell me that's what happens. I could see it.
All right, so we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the guy who's currently number 1 on Shane's 2024 Edge board, a guy who probably could have been a first-round pick last year had he come out. Jared Verse from Florida State, transferred up from Albany. Is this the year he takes off and becomes a top 10 type guy?
I think so. My only question ultimately is how athletic is he compared to the rest of this class? Is he going to be that kind of high-end athlete? But I think in terms of, explosiveness, savvy play, I mean, just the way he closes and hits, like you can hear it. He hits you hard and he will not let you go, whether it's a running back, whether it's a quarterback. We saw him really take over against LSU early in the season. I remember watching that game and be like, wow, this guy's name's getting written down. He's going in the rankings. I think that's when Brian and I added him and just really excelled to all the way to the end. Just consistent. I think Jared Verse could be a top 3 pick and be very solid. I think the question of should he have went back to school? He probably would have been a first-round pick. Yeah. But I think the upside's there to go back and dominate and become a top, like I said, top 3, top 5 player. But he's going to be a nice base 4-3 end. I think he can stand up. Versatility's there. I think he's just got the full package. That's why he's my number 1.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was kind of dumbfounded when he returned to school because I thought he was going to be, like a top 3 guy in that category there. But 6'4", 251. Do you think that the 40 time will kind of declare where he goes? Like if he runs a 4.6 or if he runs a high 4.5, Shane, do you think that will matter at all?
I don't think it will if the explosion and agility drills are good. Right. I think that's what's going to depend. If he has the vert and the broad, then I think you can overlook those things, which I think he will. I wonder if we end up seeing like the 3 cone and the shuttle. I think that's the one question I have. Some of that lateral mobility, but it's a small question for the production he put on tape.
I mean, you talked about the bull rush with the last gentleman. I mean, versus bull rush is just impeccable. He can get low and compact and just literally explode out of a cannon. And these offensive linemen are already on their heels and they're stumbling back, and he's already full motion right off the line. So it's hard to stop that guy. Like I said, I was dumbfounded on why he came back. But right now he's pretty much. I mean, they haven't played any football this year, but he's locked in as the number one guy. Pretty much a consensus across the board at the edge for me. His versatility and athleticism is just crazy.
May 17th, 2023, hot take. Jared Verse is the first player drafted that plays at the Senior Bowl this year.
Ooh.
I think it's a hot take that he's playing at the Senior Bowl this year. I think that's the hot take, right? Like, yeah.
Hey.
I'm calling it the Jermaine Johnson factor.
Yeah. All right. You try that.
We'll see. Nino, anybody you want to talk about before we move on?
Let me see here. On the defensive side, on the edge side, Gio Chopper's my guy. So, yeah, I think that's going to be – we covered a lot of guys. So, yeah.
We did.
Like, I'll toss out Leatu Latu from UCLA. I think that's the only other guy that needs mention that has a shot at going in the first round. I thought he got better throughout the season. They're very solid, but maybe some of the best hands of an edge rusher in this class so far.
Another guy I thought could have ended up in that late first round mix had he declared for the draft.
My guy Praise out of UTEP. I'll mess up his last name. I don't know how to say it.
Maywale?
Keep an eye out on him.
Maywale,
Yeah, he's a dude. Obviously, not many people out there studying UTEP, but I like what I've seen. His handwork, how he can get low and quick and get around the edge. I think he could climb.
He bends incredibly well.
Yeah, so keep an eye out on that guy.
All right, let's move on to the interior of the defensive line here, and let's start with the Amazon. Right, Mason Smith out of LSU. They tend to put those guys into the NFL, those big interior pass rushers, right? So 6'5", 316, third-year player. Talk to me about Mr. Smith.
It just does not play. Yeah, I think he actually like plays so much smaller as a pass rusher than 316, and then but you see the reach and the wingspan against the run, you're like, oh wow, this guy's actually not like 285, 290. And to me, that's always a good indication. Like, whoa, this player is really good. So I think he's just has a ton of upside ultimately, and was a top recruit. Is very interesting in terms of moving around that defense. They utilize them in a bunch of different ways. Just 20 years old, but I think he really adjusts himself to the offense and what they're doing. I don't know if there's a better two-way player in terms of athleticism, explosion, pass rush, and run stuffing than Mason Smith. So I'm excited to see what he does this year now with a full-time kind of role.
A guy's so athletic and so in shape, and then he hurts himself celebrating a tackle. Right, he's out for the year with an ACL injury. Like, man, like, talk about bad luck. Listen, his spin move is like Robert Mathis. Like, we're going like old school, like defensive lineman. Like, he's insane. Like, it's so quick. His athleticism and his spin move. He's like in the backfield and wreaking havoc right away. Obviously, we didn't get to see any of that last year, but he's got super duper high motor, and he can chase running backs down with the best of them. So. His length, like Shane said, is just elite for him. I wish we could have seen it last year. Obviously, the ACL injury was a problem. Hopefully, there's no injuries. There's no lingering effects. And I would love to see him just stuffing people on the run this year for LSU. I think LSU is a sleeper team. If you look at their whole team across the board, outside of Daniels, it's hard to find a hole.
Me and Shane are going to fight over that LSU Florida State game on opening weekend. I can see this coming already.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a Daniels, I'm a Jordan, Travis guy, but I don't know if Daniels can hold that job the whole time with Nuzumaya lacking in the background there. He's hungry.
All right, so another Georgia guy here, Nazir Stackhouse. Is he the next in line?
Yeah, I think he is. Like, I think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on Nazir Stackhouse at this point. But he was second team All ACC, and when he got in the game, he made an impact. I think that was the key. Is you watched him play, and you said, "This he's next." Like he was doing the things that Jalen Carter was doing. So I'm ready for Nazir Stackhouse. I think everyone else needs to get ready too. Because by week 4, everyone's going to say, "Oh yeah, whoops! Why do we not see this coming?" It's exactly what's going to happen.
I'm a little concerned. I don't know. 6'3", 320. That's not a big guy for as much weight. I want to see how fast he's going to be coming off the line. I know Jalen Carter struggled to stay in games down the stretch there, and especially in the CFB playoff. There was times he was taking plays off because he was gassed. And his pro day, he was 10 pounds, overweight. We all know that. But when he was in the game and he was fully in shape, that man was a problem. I don't know if Stackhouse has that dog like Carter did. You know what I mean? It'll be interesting to see if he can live up to the shoes that he's got to fill. Right? I mean, he played over 400 snaps, but he only had 9 QB hurries, 2 hits. Like, I know Carter was there. I'm gonna need to see the numbers though.
Look, there's a reason why he was all team SEC without the stats. Like, you saw it. I think now with Bear Alexander gone, you're going to have Stackhouse next to Michael Williams. It's, that duo is going to be right up there. So
you don't think
I'm mistake there.
You don't think the Georgia defense takes a hit this year?
No. Not.
You think they just keep on trucking?
Yeah, I don't see the hit coming for them. Like, I think Chet Chambliss is good. Like, I think his defense is still locked in and loaded up with all this talent.
Who are they going to take a hit from?
Who's as good as Nolan Smith?
Marvin Jones Jr.
Is it just as good as Nolan Smith?
I mean, I think he has that type of athleticism. He can put it. I mean, he could do those similar things. I think it's going to be a good defense. I think Stackhouse is going to be a big reason why.
Okay. I'm gonna have to eat crow on that one if you're right, Shane. You can
see. Or vice versa. When he sucks, he can come back and be cool.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to the Midwest now, and let's look at Illinois and Jerzon Newton. I like this guy.
Yeah, another player I thought could come out this year.
Yeah,
I think it would have been, a pretty big time. Maybe not a first round pick, but I think it would have been a day 2 pick. Just the run game penetration, I think is so good. He rarely gets hit cleanly, which for a defensive tackle is pretty rare. And so I think when you kind of combine those things, you see someone that can get in the backfield, making big plays, good tackle technique for a guy his size. I think Newton's just very, very solid. And could play 5-tech, could play 3-tech. I think there's some positioning that he could do in the NFL. So I'm a fan. He's my number 2 in the class.
Yeah, you said like he really gets stopped. I mean, he never touches the ground, right? I mean, I guess that would have to go back to his high school wrestling days. He was a wrestler back in high school, so he's got that athleticism with him as well. I mean, he's a dude. Like Shane said, he could have came out this year and probably been in top of his class. 660 snaps, you know what I mean? 34 run stops. The guy just is a run stuffer, and he gets pressure. 54 total pressures in the backfield. I like him a lot. He wasn't a guy I talked about this year because obviously Witherspoon was a dude coming out of Illinois, but I mean this guy was a dude, and he's got a motor. This guy don't stop either. So I'm a big fan. I'm with Shane on this one as well. I think he's going to be a dude.
Yeah, I'm with both of y'all. Another guy who I think has that potential for versatility inside or outside in is Leonard Taylor III from Miami. He's a guy I wasn't very aware of, and then I started seeing a lot of hype coming around him on some of these early lists. So, what are your thoughts on Leonard Taylor?
He's interesting. You know, he's kind of one of those tweener guys that I'm not exactly sure where he plays. That I don't think he has necessarily the edge ability, but inside, I think there could be some questions. But man, I mean, you pop on the film and he's just living in the backfield against these running backs. You know, he gets there, he makes it happen. So, and I'm like, is he big enough? Is he strong enough? And then he's just making plays on a defense that I think really needed playmakers. So I definitely want to see more. I think I'm a little bit lower on him maybe than consensus. I didn't have him in the first round. But I think the potential is definitely there to dominate this year.
This is my dude. I put my guy Dino onto him when he was, doing his top guys returning in each position. That he, as a true freshman, he had 21 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks in 9 games. Right? He just jumped off the screen. And then last year, 24 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, and another 3 sacks and a pick. So he's got hands. That he only trailed Kaliza Cansey in P5 interior lineman. He was 19.5% pass rush win rate and then 16.2% pressure rate win rate. Like, the dude's got it. And I know he's a tweener, but he finds a way to get in the backfield. He finds a way to just cause teams to come off what they were supposed to do, whether it was to run, make the guy take a different angle, or the QB has to look another way. This guy's got it. I mean, like I said, he only trailed Cansey. So, and as a true freshman, he ate. I think Leonard Taylor is going to rise. Mid-season, people are going to be like, where were we on this guy, and why did we not see him? Because I think the Hurricanes and Cristobal had a terrible season 5 games into it last year, and everybody checked out on the Hurricanes. But Leonard, he evolved.
2 guys we don't have to do a whole lot of deep dive into, but I just thought it was notable that both of them carried Senior Bowl invitations last year, and one even accepted. Rook Horhoro from Clemson and Fabian Lovett, Florida State, both carried Senior Bowl invitations last year, but decided to go back to school.
Yeah. I think Horhoro is the better of the two. I think he is a rock solid player, rock solid tackler. They really had him almost kind of 2-gapping there early, and then then he started to kind of lay it on later in the season and get into the backfield, start pass rushing a little bit. So I think you saw development from him that I didn't quite see from Fabian Lovett. Now I think Lovett has some talent, but is kind of not super impressive. Like, there's nothing when you watch him, you're like, oh man, this guy's like so good. So I'm interested to see if he can take it up a level. But Horhoro is probably one of my favorites. I think he could be a riser this year, ultimately.
That's why I love being on shows with you, Shane, because I feel like naturally we just butt heads because I love it. I feel like love it. I mean, he had a small sample size. He got injured last year, right? So he only played 7 games. Is that what it was? I'm pretty sure there was an injury to him.
Yeah.
But dude, he's a technician, and he has a motor that does not stop. The only thing that I need to see a little bit more is getting to the QB, right? He's a good run stopper, but he gets in the backfield, but he doesn't necessarily get pressures to the quarterback. He had no sacks last year in those 7 games that he did play. So that's something that I need to see. But I mean, he's good in the 3-4, right? He can play inside out. He's got good strength and balance. He's quick to react to the ball. He's got good vision when it comes to running and filling in the lanes. So I like Lovett. I think Florida State's stacked on the defensive side this year with a lot of guys that returned as well. But it'll be interesting to see. You need to be healthy. He's got to stay healthy if he's going to want to, stay in that realm of a top guy.
Last, before we move on, kind of like we did with the edge guys, anybody we missed out here that you guys want to add in on?
I mean, we have the Ohio State duo on this side too. Like, I think Tyleik Williams is, is kind of the nose tackle there, who had a couple games that he took over. Mike Hall had the most sacks on Ohio State's team last year. He might not even start this year. but is still, a penetrating presence. So, I don't know how you can kind of grade that, but I think Tyreek Williams has a first-round shot at his size and athleticism.
I'm going to go with a guy that Shane's probably not too high on. I'm not really sure he's got him. He probably out of his top 10, but Baylor's Gabe Hall. My man's got like hands like E Honda. All right. He just yeah, exactly. That's his attribute. He's in there. He just throws people around, gets them up there. He's savvy. He's versatile. He's got the instincts of an edge rusher, but he can play on the inside. He's got a spin move. 18 QB hurries, four hits, and 4 sacks last year, and he had 500 snaps. I mean, 500 snaps for a defensive interior lineman. I'll take it. So he's a guy to watch out. Like obviously, he's undersized a little bit. So you're going to have to watch that. And as a pass rusher, he's a little bit raw. So that's probably why Shane's got him a little lower than I do. But I think he's a dude. Like I said, when it comes to run stop, he's stuffing him.
Yeah, big time athlete. I think if we can see that rawness, he's number 11. That's all. He's right there. He's right there. He's right there.
Good stuff. All right, let's move on to linebackers here. And I mean, there's the guy at the top, and that's Jeremiah Trotter Jr., right? I mean, he is the guy amongst this linebacker group. He's small, 6 foot 210. That's an issue for me, but definitely got the legacy, and he's a playmaker.
Look, I mean, just watching him in that bowl game, I even like. I think I even mistakenly wrote him up in my bowl game article because I was like, he was so good. And he wasn't even I knew he wasn't eligible, and I was like, oh my God, like he was just all over the place, making plays, trying to like will this team to victory. I think Jeremiah Trotter has, he has that hard hitting ability. We talk about Trenton Simpson, right, this year, went day 2 in the NFL draft. I think Jeremiah Trotter has that same athleticism, but he has the instincts. He can read the offense. He hits the right spot. He has the angles. And it's like, wow, that's all I wanted from Trenton Simpson the whole year. And here it is. So that's why I think he's spectacular. First-round pick, I'll probably have him there until we have a clear cut. But, I don't know, for an off-ball linebacker, I think it's hard to do. But I think he's going to be a good one.
I'm a Trenton Simpson guy. I love Trenton Simpson, and I've been saying that Trotter Jr. is better than Trenton Simpson. Okay, and you're gonna show that in a full season where he's the guy. The numbers that he put up last year, it was in a small sample size. He was just playing on rotation. He wasn't even like the main guy. Now he's going to be the main guy, and he is going to dominate. He plays bigger than his size. I know he's a little undersized, but he plays bigger than his size. He's fast. He's got a good closing speed. He can rock you in close range too. So if you ain't paying attention, you're gonna come up looking at the side of your helmet. The pedigree's there, right? He's playing on a big team. He's been playing with some talented dudes who've gone to the NFL, and he's been balling out with the talent around him. I think he doesn't have to take much of a step to be that guy.
Yeah, he's the one guy I'm anxious to. I haven't watched him a lick yet, so I'm anxious to get it to see what he's all about. A guy I have watched because, he was eligible last year, I think has a chance to be this year's Jack Campbell. Highly productive and going to probably test really well and has good size. And that's Tommy Eichenberg from Ohio State. I feel like we're talking about Ohio State a lot. This is bull crap. But Eichenberg's a stud.
Man, I mean, he played so well this year. Like you said, I think he has the athleticism. You saw the development from a read and react ability. I thought he was a little bit slow coming into last year in terms of seeing what's happening, reacting to it. He kind of let those second-level runs happen. But we saw him really clean that up, and I think it helped Ohio State win a lot of games last season, and he was, the cornerstone of that defense. So, I think day 2, Tommy Eichenberg is going to be a rock solid inside backer, can play a little bit outside. I think he has the ability to rush a little bit. I like the versatility. I'm interested to see how his stock kind of goes moving forward, because he was kind of saddled with in that defense. The kind of the green dot ability, right, of calling the defense and making sure it's the right place. And that's a complex defense. I think that has to be mentioned too.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. He can definitely wear the green dot at the next level. My concern with Tommy is, bro, wrap up. Stop being a guy that tries to, hand tackle, grab in the jersey and throw down. Like, wrap him up. Because if you look at his missed tackles, a lot of them where he was just handsy. Like, he was a grab and tackle guy. For a guy that's got that physicality and that mode, just wrap him up, take him to the ground. Don't try to be, cute with it. And then, like, when you get upfield and you want to be the violent hitter, just commit. Because sometimes I feel like he's like, I don't know if I'm going to get him or I'm going to go at him. But he's got it. I mean, like you said, he's probably the closest to a Jack Campbell in this class because he can play off the ball a little bit. And when you're getting downhill, I mean, he's just snot bubbles. He's that old school Vladimir, the program. I'm going to just blow you up, lean over you, stare at you, get back in the next play and do it again. So I'm with you.
Always good to get a program reference.
Best football movie ever.
It's not even close.
No, it's not.
it's really not. A guy I anticipate I will watch a great number of times this year as I watch the Sun Belt more than most. And I just want to talk about him is Jason Henderson from Old Dominion. How productive was he last year, Shane? Because it felt like it was up there every week.
Look, only 186 tackles.
That's it.
I don't think that's too much. I mean, just the sideline to sideline ability, like Jason Henderson. The Old Dominion defense was really interesting because Henderson was basically, I thought, just doing everything. Like everyone else was like blocked and not doing anything, and he's getting off of blocks. He's making things happen. I was like, oh my goodness, this guy's wild. So I just watching him command that defense, and I really think the agility's there too, because that was always the question when you talk about a player from the G5. Is the athleticism going to hold up, or is it going to fall like a tank in the draft for that? And I think Henderson has some of that athletic ability, closing speed. I think it's there. So, I mean, if he gets another 180 tackles, I think a team's got to take him pretty early.
Yeah, listen, 180 tackles, but no sacks.
Look, he got a solid one. I think he got a solid one sack,
I'm just saying. That's the only thing. Hey, listen, I'm with it, but he's built like a DB, right? What is he, like 220? 226 foot, 220? Like he's like a big safety out there. So like maybe at the NFL he's, he'll play the nickel position. I know he's a 4-3 will guy, right? That's what he plays now. He's good, like you said, sideline to sideline. Obviously, how good was Old Dominion's defense? So 180 tackles. Does that mean that your defense was letting, you constantly would letting them get past the line of scrimmage? And that's
yes, they were. That wasn't his job. Like, his job was to clean up that second level. And that's what he was doing. But, if you watch him against the outside runs, I mean, that's where he closed hit behind the line. That was the piece on the outside stuff. So,
I just think he's small, right? He's just a small linebacker. I know the modern NFL's gone to that 6'3", 235, 240 style like linebacker. 6 foot 225 scares me a little bit at the next level.
Absolutely.
But he's got a motor, like you said. He's a run stopper, and his vision for angles, like you said, to get to the outside. It's like Superman. Like, it just and then he's got that red beam, and he goes. But I want to know how much of that 180-something tackles had to do with the defense being putrid.
They weren't. They had a couple of DBs that were okay.
Yeah.
I think they had one got drafted and one ended up in a camp. So
okay.
That was about it, though.
Yeah.
But
the defensive line was not good.
You know what I mean? But hey, and he runs a 4.7 40. Like, that's not fast for a guy who's only 6 foot 225. So
I don't think he's going to enter this draft anyway, but I just want to talk about him because I'm going to end up watching him a lot this year. Before I turn it over to you guys to add in a couple other names, Jackson Mitchell, UConn. I think he's going to end up being a guy not dissimilar from Dayon Henley last year that ends up down at the Senior Bowl and comes out the big name that week and ends up as a top 100 pick.
Yeah. You like him, Nino?
I like him. I think in coverage he's really good, and he's compact, right? He hits like a truck when necessary. Like, that's not his main MO, but like QBs that target him, and when he dropped back in coverage, they had an 89 QBR. Like, he had a couple pass breakups, so he's got hands. My main thing with like Pace and Henley at the Senior Bowl, I felt like they kind of got ate up in the pass coverage. I feel like this dude with the same structure and stuff does well in the pass coverage. So I think as a pass coverage linebacker, he's good. Now, if it comes to getting downfield, getting to the QB, he had 5 sacks. I don't know the transition from, UConn to the NFL if he's going to be able to be that downhill smashing linebacker. But I think he can be a coverage guy.
Yeah, I think that's where the NFL's moving, right? I think it's why Henley works well, where you could have Mitchell playing the inside, cleaning up those tackles,
Yes.
taking the big hits, and then dropping back into a shallow zone or making that move against a motioning tight end. So I think that versatility is going to help him. I think the upside's there. I do think similar to Henderson, not to that extent. I think UConn was a better team than a lot of us anticipated, but that the defensive line once again was just bad. He was cleaning up so much that sometimes I think it's tough to see the full skill set. So maybe we'll see it this year. 140 tackles for him. So that was a lot of the similar things.
Right.
Anybody else you guys want to add in here?
Shane, can I ask you a question about a linebacker? If you had to take Junior Colson or the general, we're going to talk UGA or Mondin. Who do you like? Because I don't think is Mondin on the same playing field as Nolan?
No, I don't think so. I think it's different. I think they play different positions. I think Smail Mondin from Georgia is going to be more of that Nakobe Dean type of, playing in the middle. I think he flashed some of the pass coverage ability. He's going to be more kind of the cleanup middle linebacker. They're back-to-back in my rankings. I have Junior Colson from Michigan at 5 and Smail Mondin at 4. I think Mondin has a little bit more of the athleticism. I think Colson has a little bit more maybe of the pass rush ability and bend. Yeah. I think it's going to be I think they're going to be 2 good ones, though, ultimately for this class.
Yeah. I like Junior being in the Big Ten, going against big running backs, teams that run the ball. So you got to get downhill. You got to get to the guy. And then when that QB is going to attempt to throw the ball in the Big Ten, just to eat him up, because there's not many good QBs in the Big Ten outside of my guy Kyle McCord,
who hasn't even played yet. So
he's still going to be the best QB in that whole conference, and he's probably going to be top 5 when it all said and done.
Eric Gentry, Southern Cal, Shane. Before we move to corners.
Yeah, he's a player I like more than consensus. At Arizona State, I thought he really did well in that defense and flashed some pass coverage ability, and then made the transfer this year. Got hurt, but he's such a good tackler, even as a kind of a small size. He's tall, he's long, he's small. He doesn't look like a typical linebacker. But he's one of those guys. We could toss him in the edge. We could toss him at nickel. We could toss him drop back and cover. We can let him go after the running back. I like the versatility of Eric Gentry. I think he's a name to watch for USC this year.
Well, don't forget about his teammate now. Come on, Shane. His teammate transferred over from Oklahoma State with a high motor, 85-plus tackles, and Mason Cobb. I think Mason Cobb is going to eat in the Pac-12, especially with Gentry being there. Mason Cobb is going to be in the gap destroying people this year. I feel like he's not going to have to be that dude, but he's going to look like that dude because of what he's surrounded by, and now he's free to go and do whatever he wants.
Yeah, look, I think very possible. So I'd be interested to see how Cobb does this year. Like I said, the Southern Cal defense, they definitely invested to make that much better going forward.
They needed to. That was the reason why they lost.
All right, we now move on to corners, and let's go to the all-name team here, Nino. Let's talk about your man, Kool-Aid McKinstry.
I don't care about any Ohio State Buckeye DB. Denzel Burke better show me something before they announce him DB1, because Kool-Aid came in there and told Eli Ricks, here's my helmet, homie, hold it, and I'm going to show you how to be DB1. And he did that last year. He was locked down. They challenged him early, and they stopped challenging mid-season because they realized that he's that guy. He's in your neck, right? He's in your hip pocket. Off the line, he can play physical. He's got a great back pedal from his neck to his waist. He's solid. Like he's not like a spaghetti noodle out there. Kool-Aid McKinstry is him for the DB class. And I think by the end of this season, everybody's going to realize that he's better than Denzel Burke, and he's going to go off the board first.
Yeah, look, no retort. I mean, I think Coley McKinstry's great. I think both of those players have the ability. I think Burke and McKinstry both are top 25 guys in the class. I think what Nino said was correct. Where he's tough. I mean, he plays tough, returns punts, he doesn't take a hit, he'll hit you back, whether it be returning the punt or as a defensive back. So I like how he gets his nose in there. I think the back pedal's smooth. I think instinctually I want to see some improvements, but he's definitely getting there. And I think we could really see him take off. I think his corner class at the top is going to be pretty good.
I will say one thing I've noticed about Kool-Aid outside of most of the DBs in the top 5 is he's got a bicycle back pedal. He doesn't T-step. Burke got a T-step. I feel like people that do the bicycle can explode off that, right? It's it's so smooth. There's no conversion. It's back, and then boom, right into the closing or going to the next move. I feel like sometimes with the T-step, you got a bit of the delay because you turn your foot to the side, then you got to stop and then push off the other one. So.
Yeah, the only thing is you better be ready. You better be making the right choice, right? Because you there's no going back. And so I think already had a couple moments where he kind of exploded too fast. So I think experience is going to help this year for McKinstry for sure.
I'm with you.
So the name that's getting a lot of buzz on the Twitter machine has been Kalen King from Penn State.
He's what do you want with a Penn State DB, right? He has the athletic ability, I think, of the tremendous upside and the playmaking ability. So when you get a guy who is going to run in the 4.4s, that's strong off the line and can play the ball, that's going to get noticed. I think Kalen King, to me, isn't as tough against the run. I think he's a coverage guy that's going to kind of make plays. And as we saw in the draft with Emmanuel Forbes, teams want that. They want guys that can make this interception and make the big play. So I kind of get the hype, but there's so many times I just wish, after a guy did catch a ball, that he would tackle better. And some of those little things that frustrate you, I think, as a fan are there. I think it's things that can get cleaned up, and we could be talking about a stud when all said and done here. But he's number 4 on my board right now.
I like King, but just like Joe, Kenny Pickett reaped the benefits of Jordan Addison and went first round. King definitely reaped the benefits of Joey Porter Jr. being there last year.
Yes,
all right.
True.
He was covering wide receiver 2 or 3. Now, granted, when you're that guy and Joey's a shutdown, they're gonna target you more. But the guy you're covering is most likely less talented than the wide receiver 1, right? And like you said, Shane, he tends to want to be like a home run hitter. He wants to take it to the crib. That the Trayvon Diggs effect is what I call it with these guys now. And teams are buying in because they see that they can put points on the board. So, yeah, they may get burnt a couple times in the game, but there's a chance they could take one to the crib or put them in a better field position to score. So I understand where they're coming from. I want to see you being the dude, right? Because there's no lacking no more. You got to be able to, if a guy gets physical with you at the line of scrimmage, you be able to break those hands and get in the backfield to stop the run or the screen or whatever it may be. Joey did that with ease. That was his MO, being a physical DB, and he could play the pass. King right now is known as a coverage dude. I got to see you be that dude. Lock it down, play physical at the line of scrimmage, even hit some tight ends, because you weren't anywhere in that realm last year. I need to see that this year.
One more guy that I want to bring up, and then I'll let you guys have it. Just because I know the NFL is going to the length guys, right? And I don't know how much he's played up to this point, but Jason Marshall from Florida, 6'2", 180. Is he ready to come in and play? Is he like Kyer Elam was a couple of years ago, potential first-round pick?
I think he has that kind of potential. Like you said, I think when you have that kind of length and size to him, there's a lot of upside in what Jason Marshall does. I just see someone that is always kind of in that hip pocket. Similar to McKinstry. I think McKinstry does a little bit better. I think Marshall has a little bit more of that kind of size and length to work at the line and then stick with a guy down the field. Rock solid. Not a big play guy. He doesn't play the ball. I wish the instincts were there a little bit more. But you see that first round or top 50 potential with Jason Marshall. So it's a good, it's a good top 5, top 10 in this corner class. I think we could have another good one here. I think Marshall could be one of those players that looks good.
Yeah, I like him. He gets, like you said, he's always in the hip pocket. He reminds me of a guy that's at the Senior Bowl this year that showed up and showed out when Riley Moss. I know he's a little bit bigger than Riley Moss, but the style of play when it comes to coverage, I feel like Marshall has that. He's right there. Even if the guy beats him at the line, he can close, get to him, and then like he's just stuck to him. Like, he's glue. He's all around it. And I like Marshall, but there's a couple of guys at the latter end of this top 10 that I really like a lot. Tony Grimes, man. I don't really know why he went to Texas A&M, but I love Tony Grimes. I think that he probably can work himself with a good. Yeah, I know he's got Tyreek Chappell on the other side, right? So they got two guys, but he's bigger than Chappell. He's almost 200 pounds. I think Chappell's like 180 or 185 or something like that. Tony Grimes is a dog, right? He played with Storm Duck, and they both were elite last year. He's another guy that's physical in your throat, right? He doesn't take no crap from any receiver. You're not going to hand check him out the way and get by him off the line of scrimmage. He could get a little bit more cleaner in his back pedal, Grimes, but he makes plays on the ball. He's a playmaker, so I like Grimes. And I think Shane might like this gentleman as well. Max Melton. Shane, you like Melton out of Rutgers? I think Rutgers they do well with secondary, right? I know Billy Belichick likes the Rutgers secondary guys. So what are your thoughts on Max?
I think the upside is tremendous. I mean, I think he's going to be a 4.35 or faster guy. He's going to be one of the fastest players in this draft. But like at that speed, I'm always like, man, just play the ball, just get that interception, And so there's a little more I want to see out of him. But 3 block kicks, like special teams guy too. I think I probably have him lower than he'll go. I think Melton's going to be a rock solid top 100 pick, like almost lock it in now.
And then I had another guy, and I know Brian always tells me I'm the name guy, and that's going to be Darian Deuce Chestnut. He just transferred to LSU. I like him a lot. I think he's got all the talent, quick feet, really quick at like closing. He can turn on a dime. His back pedal is smooth. He's got a tall frame. He's got a wide reach, and he's another guy that's like for a DB when it comes to hands at the line of scrimmage, man. He's really physical with his hands, and he doesn't really get smoked. I know he's coming off an injury. He didn't really practice much this spring. But talk to me what you think about Deuce. I like him. I think he can creep up.
I think he's a good nickel, and so I think that limits maybe Deuce Chestnut's ceiling. I think at Syracuse, he was very consistent, like you said, at the line of scrimmage, using his hands. Like, I think there's a lot of good things to like. He's one of those players that when I watch, I'm like, this guy's awesome. And then I start evaluating traits from an NFL perspective. I'm like, I don't know if they're going to like him, but so I think the jump to LSU is good because I think we're going to learn real quick. Deuce Chestnut can hold up the NFL or not. So I think we could be talking about him as like 2nd round pick or 6th round pick when all said and done. I think he'll go either way.
All right, I'm with that.
We have not talked about near enough South Carolina players tonight. This does not bode well.
Well, I think you watched that defense last year, Brian. So you know why.
And they're all gone.
That's the problem. That they all
good. Not good. Yeah, you mentioned Tony Grimes. South Carolina was in the running for him. He should have gone to DBU instead of Texas A&M. That's just sad.
Yeah.
All right. You want to proclaim DBU?
Sure, why not? Let's move on to safety as we wrap things up here. Shane, you have a couple of guys rated ahead of him, but I know, speaking of South Carolina, and I worked that in there, one of the reasons that they were able to beat Clemson last year is because Andrew McCaba did not play for most of that game or at all in that game. I can't remember if he got ejected or if he just didn't play the entire game. I can't remember. It was one or the other. I was at Disney during the game, so I was a little in and out of it, to be honest. But talk to me about McCaba and how he fits in this safety class?
I mean, he flies. He flies to the football. I think he plays downhill. Change of direction for Andrew Makaba is really good. And, they gave him a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. So you don't necessarily see the stats. I don't think he's a player that's, they put in a position to make interceptions or be more instinctual. But I think Makaba was, always kind of at the line of scrimmage, almost – it almost reminded me of like Troy Polamalu, where like he'd be in the line and then like, nope, I'm going back, right? I'm needed here, I'm needed here, I'm needed here, and so to take that kind of responsibility on to me at a school like Clemson just speaks a lot. So he's squarely in my top 5 safeties in this class.
For a guy who could play single high safety and come right down and cover a guy in a slot, that speaks volumes. That's versatility right there. I mean, you can see. He's got, like a high football IQ. He's fat, 4'3", right? I think that's what you're 4'3", 40. The speed is just ridiculous. And like Shane said, he's a cerebral player. If you look at him back there, he is in the quarterback's helmet. You know what I mean? Like he just sees nothing else. He's reading QB's eyes, and he's instinctful. I like Macomba. I think he's a dude. I wish he was a little bit more on the ball. Like I wish he had a little bit more like playmaking skills, because he really doesn't. And last year, the thing that scares me, he's had like 128 QBR when targeted. Like obviously, I get he's a safety, but man, that's the only like knock on him that I got. But I like Macomber a lot. I think he's a dude. There's a couple of guys in here that are dudes.
Is Javon Bullard one of those dudes? Shane's number 1 rated safety right now out of Georgia.
Yeah, he's definitely a dude. He's a man, 5'11", 180 pounds, right? 4'5", 40. He's a guy. He got instinctful. He can. The thing with him is his route reading is great. He can adapt on the fly. If these guys want to switch up routes on him, he's smooth when it changes. If he needs to be in coverage, like does he remind you of a Bama guy from this last draft class at all? Shane
Bullard?
Yeah.
Who are you thinking?
I feel like he reminds me more of not Battle, the other gentleman,
Brian Branch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I think he has that kind of playing bigger than he is, right? Which we saw with Brian Branch, the tackle ability, even wrap up ability. I was impressed with Bullard too. So I'm kind of with you there. I mean, just watch the playoff, watch the 2 games, and it's either obviously the hit on Marvin Harrison, everyone remembers, whatever. But like throughout that Ohio State game, he is just like Nino said, closing that football, shot out of a cannon. Like he's making a play, he's reading the route, he's getting there before the receiver gets there. If he can't break up the pass, he's stopping you. And then at TCU, I felt like you knew what TCU was doing, right? These are the biggest games of the year for Georgia. You got to make plays. He makes 2 interceptions. Yeah. I think he's just phenomenal. And I'm surprised. Other people do not have him very high, and I don't know. I'm floored by it.
The way he was able to manipulate Quinn, right, in that second, like he played like he was playing, safety over the top, but then he would like right as before they would snap the ball, he would slide back. So he was like literally playing mind games with Dugan. Like, all right, you can't go to him because I'm there. And then as soon as he would go away, he was able to just pull off. And his, like he's cerebral. It's crazy. And the whole hit on Marvin Harrison, yeah, that was kind of an ugly hit. But the 9 minutes before that hit, Marvin Harrison was eliminated. Like they had figured out a way to kind of eliminate him.
All right, let's not go too far. I don't think that's true. But
there was like
we can fight about that one later. But
he didn't have a catch for like a quarter and a half, right? Or did my eyes play tricks on me? There was like a quarter and a half where he didn't catch the ball.
I feel like I'm gonna have to spring my homerism some other time.
Let's talk about another guy who's garnered fame here recently, and that's Cooper DeJean from Iowa. Bigger guy, 6'2", 195.
Yeah, I mean he's going to be a 4-3 player. The speed's off the chart. I think Iowa's just producing like Riley Moss, these fast, athletic players. Now, I think Gene you could say he's a corner. You could say he's a safety. I think he essentially plays both positions. I imagine we're going to see more corner from him this year. So maybe I should make that change. But I do think DeJean plays a lot like a safety at that size because he can hit you. He can play a little bit of the deep zone coverage we saw this past season. But I think we see similar to Riley Moss. Maybe that change happened. But playmaker. I mean, he has that nose for the football. He has the speed to close, and he just reading the quarterback and how the ball's going to be there. It really impresses me. So I think we could be talking about a top 50 pick here.
Yeah, I love Cooper. I think he's better than his counterpart that went to the Senior Bowl last year in Merriweather. I think he's much better than Merriweather from the safety out of Iowa last year. I think like what you just said makes me feel like he should stay at the safety position. How he's cerebral, how he can read the QB, how he can get downhill quickly. He can cover well. He can stay in the hip pocket as well. So it's like I don't really know what they're going to do with them. He is Riley Moss-esque. It's crazy how they have two of them back-to-back and back-to-back seasons, right? They just produce DBs lately. Iowa's been producing tight ends and DBs for a little bit now, but I don't know where he's going to go because he can play all over the field. Like you said, maybe he'll be a nickel guy at the next level and just play there forever.
Is this a year we finally see the return to prominence of Jalen Catalon?
I hope so. I really do. Like, I really hope that we end up seeing him, come out of Arkansas and move to Texas and be really good. I'm scared. I'm scared we end up having a Brandon Joseph situation where you kind of make that transfer to a very different defense, plus coming off the injury. But Catalon, the safety transfer from Arkansas to Texas, he has the size, he has the tackle ability. We've definitely seen it before, but with the injuries and everything, I worry of what the upside of Jalen Catalon is. So I still have him ranked in my top 10 because I think if he can play up to how he played early in his career, I mean, the sky's the limit, but I have some trepidation.
Yeah, he's got to stay healthy. I got to see it at this, at this Texas level. I mean, in the red zone, he was a straight monster. Try scoring on that guy in the red zone. Good luck, right? He would make you pay for a throw that was off, but by this much, he was just a QB nightmare. Smart player. He understands nuances of coverage schemes. He gets it. He's a solid tackler too. He's not going to get run over by DBs. He's not going to blow running backs. He's not going to blow up a running back, but he's not afraid to get in there and tackle either. So I like it. The health is just a big concern, right? And you're going to get tested early against Alabama. What's that, week 3? They play Alabama, so 2? Yeah, so. And I already called Texas winning that game. You guys can hear it as well. Texas winning that game. Stamping it.
Bold statement picking on Alabama, poor Alabama when they're down.
Oh, here we go. When they're down. What are they down on? What are they down on?
Last call for you guys on these safety prospects.
Shane, it didn't come up, and I'm surprised because my guy gives me the Ed Reed vibes out of Miami. I like him a lot. He's just a dog. He stays around the ball, right? He's a hitter, and that's Cameron Kitchens. I'm not sure if it's Kitchens or Kinchens, but Shane, you got to love this guy, right? He's an absolute dog at the safety position.
Yeah, like I think that Georgia Tech game made 3 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown, I think helped. But yeah, I mean, I like Kinchin's ability to play the football. Well, you're all over these Hurricanes, Nino. You're turning into a Miami defensive fan over here. Leonard Taylor, Cameron Kitchens, but I agree.
I love Taylor. Like to me, he jumped off the screen when I was looking at lineman. Like he just like his athleticism is crazy. You know what I mean? And that was the only 2 bright spots really, besides Mallory for the Hurricanes last year.
Yeah. No, I think Kitchens is good. I think he's up there. Cole Bishop from Utah is a player I like a lot. Just definitely a big, in the box safety. I don't know how high he'll go in the draft, but I mean, he rushes the passer. He's breaking up passes. Like, he is tough. So I like him too.
I got two later guys. One of them I thought was going out this year, and he probably would have did better. It was Akeem Dent, right? He returned. He was talked about being as a high safety for Florida State. And then we talked about Ohio State a lot, right? You guys they got to transfer. I know he's hurt right now, right? And I wanted to know, what are your thoughts on him if he can get healthy in Jihad Carter? Because everything about Carter seems like he can be a dude.
Look, I think it's a nice balance with him, and I also think Lathan Ransom, is probably draftable as well, because I think Carter has kind of that size and bulk. So if he does get healthy, I actually think for Carter's size, he covers pretty well. But I think him and Lathan Ransom give a really big safety duo that can cover. That I think that's invaluable.
What's your thoughts on Dent? Is he kind of for you?
Yeah, and look, maybe I'm just lower on the Florida State defense, and I'm with you. I think it's going to be a good team this year. So, but he's kind of a player that I think he's just plays way too stiff this past season for me, and I just want to loosen him up and get those footworks moving. But it could definitely be a riser if that team does well.
And I remember the name, Brian, because you threw him out to me in my show. So I'm going to throw him to Shane. Gentleman out of Wake Forest, Nick Anderson, I believe his name is. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's got to get healthy. I mean, a former walk-on, I think to be at Wake Forest as a walk-on and have the career that he had is exceptional. But yeah, definitely a player as a freshman had 4 interceptions, and I remember watching. It was like, wow, this guy's really good. I worry about the athleticism, but I think the instincts are there, special teams abilities there that can get you drafted.
Brian, we didn't speak about my guy, and I wanted to bring him up out of Duke, the DN guy, Dwayne Carter. He's got. Can he? If he has the same type of year that he had last year, because he was a QB nightmare, right? He was in the backfield. He pretty much had a lawn chair chilling back there. Is there a possibility that we can hear this guy's name being talked about in maybe first 2-3 rounds?
Look, I mean, it's always possible. I think Duke is always a school that you maybe struggle to get that kind of recognition from, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But
I think that might change a little bit this year. I think I really believe a lot with Riley Leonard's going to have that team in contention to the point that we're going to have to focus on Duke football more. And I think it's going to attract attention to guys like Dwayne Carter and some of the other prospects on that Duke roster.
Riley Leonard is a dude, man. I know it's a defensive show tonight, but Riley Leonard is a dude.
Last safety, we don't have to go into deep depth on him, but I'm very curious to see how he does adjusting at Cal after transferring from San Diego State. Patrick Memorius, I know, is a guy that me and Shane both kind of liked a little bit last year. Thought he could have come out, but it ends up transferring up to the Pac-12 or sideways if the rumors of San Diego State going to the Pac-12 are to be believed.
Yeah, I really liked him because I think for the size and the hip flexibility that he played with extremely well. So I'm excited. I hope he plays well enough in the Pac-12 maybe to get to the Senior Bowl, get to a nice all-star game. We could see McMorris rise up the board a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, he's probably like an early day 3 guy right now, but with some potential.
Hey, 6 foot 210. I mean, I know last year was a little bit of an off year, but the previous year he had 90-plus tackles. I mean, you put up 90 tackles. I think last year he had 60-plus tackles. 90 tackles, I'm watching. Those are big numbers. I'm going to be paying attention for sure.
Yeah. We've gone over an hour here with you, Nino, man. And Shane foretold this was going to happen last week.
It's good. Like, Nino always brings it. That's why I love Nino. Man. He's the best.
He said, we went over an hour with Sheps last week. He said Nino will go longer.
Yeah. My guy's coach, man. I don't know what I would have done if he never found me, man. I'd still be sitting on a couch somewhere. Thank God for Coach. He's my mentor, man. I love him to death.
Yeah, we love everything you guys do, man. We follow your work. And, Nino, before we let you go, man, just tell everybody all the great stuff that's going on with you guys' YouTube channel and everything.
Yeah, so we got, it's a T2T network now because we've joined forces with the CFB Nation. So now we have a whole college side of it, and we have the NFL and fantasy. We also do like the draft, like you guys do as well. We worked together this year to get that stuff out. And we just got, we got On the Clock on Thursdays. Me, Coach, KT, and Boomer. We're just talking about post-draft stuff, guys. Landing spots that were good, landing spots that weren't so good, and guys that you like that might not perform as well as you may think. And then I'm on the dark side with you gentlemen now. I mean, I'm all college football. I mean, there's nothing better than it. Every week I'm diving deeper and deeper into it, and I'm still trying to figure out how Stetson Bennett didn't graduate after going to school for 6 years. But
he changed majors.
So what? How does that work? So I said that on my show. That was the underlying thing. But like, how long do you get with that? 3 times he changed his major?
No, well, he went Georgia to JUCO and then came back, and those credits didn't transfer from JUCO. Then he changed his major, so the classes from Georgia didn't count to the major. So you're trying to fit in 3 years there. It's 3 years is what he had.
I don't know. The numbers just don't, 12, 24, 36, 48. It's 6 times 12. It should be more than that. But I get it. I understand what you're saying. But yeah, we got all college stuff going on. And then we got, we're bringing in dynasty rankings for IDP and for fantasy. So you go over to Total Titles and just check it out. Check us out on YouTube. The same thing, Total Titles.
Good stuff, man. Nino, man, I love you, brother, and I appreciate you coming on.
I love you guys. Both of you guys, I appreciate you. Enjoy the vacation, huh?
We are going to try. All right. Thanks, Nino.
Thanks, bud.
That was our good buddy Nino Brown from Titles CFB Nation. At one point, I wonder who's longer winded, Nino or Paul.
I think doing the first draft night. I think Paul's got him. Nino was sharp on draft night. But I love it. No, yeah, I had numerous compliments of Nino from the live draft night show on the first night. So he's awesome. The spectacular.
Yeah, he's the best, man. Love having him on. Before we close out the show, Shane, you had a nice little fun piece on the site this week that I just wanted to get your take on here. You released you've been scouting the draft since 2004. And you released a piece this week that looked at your top 25, your highest rated players at each position in the last 20 years, I guess, 20 draft classes. I'm just curious. My question is, and it was really fascinating to see. My question is, how do you rank those guys? Do you have like a numerical point system that stacks these, or is it just kind of you look at your notes and okay, this guy, I had more positive things about this guy than this guy and this guy?
Yeah, so I think you've been through this, Brian, right? Like your kind of process changes at times over the years. So it was a lot of going back and trying to take what I did before to what I'm doing now, and do that. I definitely used to do more of a point system. Now at Draft Counts, I've kind of gotten away from it. So it was kind of about stacking those players in. So since we restarted the site, I've almost kind of done this, but never really had all the old drafts to, okay, where exactly did I have Eli Manning in 2004? So this was nice to take the numeric stuff, take the not numeric stuff, and kind of combine it up to where I was. And I think it'll be nice to kind of continue updating this every year. And then we kind of have those top 25. There's definitely some positions where I can't wait for that number 25 guy to drop out as well. So,
yeah, I thought it was pretty fun. Somebody brought it up on Twitter, and I thought one of the more fascinating things from this entire list was your top 3 edge rushers were all drafted by the Houston Texans.
Yeah, Mario Williams, Jadeveon Clowney, and Will Anderson, all drafted by the Houston Texans, which is
fascinating.
That's what they stunk a lot and picked highly and thought they had a quarterback, I guess, and that's what happens.
It's wild to think about, and I am curious to see how it slots now because I know you love Caleb Williams, and I'm just curious at how he's going to end up grading out for you at the end of the day.
Yeah, we'll see how this last year goes, but he's definitely in contention for, I think, the top spot. I don't know if he can unseat Trevor Lawrence. I like Trevor Lawrence a ton, but in that Andrew Luck, Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow area for sure.
It's going to be fun stuff. All right, we've got a couple of questions on Twitter. We'll get to those really quick. At _Doe21, David Davis asks, who do you think is the first Buckeye to get drafted after Marvin Harrison Jr.? I'm sure most will say Egbuka, but I think Tua Moloau will have a big year and go next.
I think I just wanted you to say Tua Moloau's name.
I think
again.
so.
No, I think I think Egbuka's probably my pick. I think that's most likely, that we see both receivers go fairly early. But as we talked about before, Tua Moloau has that potential. And if Denzel Burke has a really big year, but I'll stick with Egbuka here.
At Flows 420, Brian Zukowski asks, what is your way too early guess on the breadth of the strength of the 2024 offensive tackle class?
Good.
I think initially looking at it, I think it's going to be definitely stronger at the top than 2023.
Yes.
Just with Fashanu and Alt.
Right. I think Alt and Fashanu give you that safety at the top and the elite prospects. I think it has a chance to be deeper day 2 wise, right? Because I think offensive tackle kind of fell off a little bit. So I think it has that chance. We'll see what happens. But there's definitely Grant Barton out of Duke and Julian Pearl out of Illinois, some guys that we didn't talk about last week that could sneak into day 2 and beef up the depth of the class.
I mean, there's some other guys that I definitely want to like. We did talk a little bit about Kingsley Swamatea, J.C. Latham last week. Guys, I want to get a Ruben Fatherade second. Gottlieb Ayadze from Frostburg State had a Senior Bowl invite.
Yeah.
Was it last year? And then transferred to Maryland or transferred up. So, and he's going to get in there immediately, right? Probably be a starter because they lost both their starters. Both of them got drafted, Jalen Duncan and Spencer Anderson. So he'll get a chance to mix it up there in the Big Ten, and he's going to get tested, right? I mean, because he's going to play Ohio State. He's going to play Michigan. He's going to play Penn State. He's going to play Michigan State. He's going to get thrown right in the fire. So you're going from D2 up to the Big Ten. If he goes up and has a good year, like just say he's equal to how Jalen Duncan played last year, which was down. I mean, that's enough to get you drafted, early day 3 at worst.
Right. Yeah. And looking at the spring reports, he's going to start at left tackle where Jalen Duncan was. So, like you mentioned, we saw against Ohio State and Penn State the problems there. So he's going to get tested. Circle that October 7th Ohio State game for sure.
Yeah. And Julian Pearl, Jim Nagy was talking about him on Twitter the other day from Illinois as a guy to look out for potentially in Mobile this year. Quick question in the chat. Justin has no Dwight Sheps tonight.
You might not live that one down.
I don't think I will, and I shouldn't, to be honest. I shouldn't.
That was fun.
That's fair. All right. Before we get to our final thoughts, just want to tell everybody, if you're new to the channel watching tonight, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel there and subscribe. Hit the notification bell, the like button, all that good stuff. If you're listening to the audio version, be it Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever, give us a 5-star review and share that out as well. But Shane, as we mentioned, this is it for us for a few months. We're gonna lay low unless we have an emergency must talk about thing happen over the summer. We said the same thing last year. It ended up not happening. Probably won't happen again this year as well. If not, our plan is to come back mid-August as we get ready for the first week of college football season. We start laying out all our rankings after we watch over the summer and everything. But what are your final thoughts on our second full year here of Draft Countdown, the 2023 draft season in general, and everything that went down?
I thought we had a great year. I appreciate everyone that came to the site, that listened to the podcast, that gave us support. I think bringing on Brad Miranda was great, and I'm excited to see what next year brings. I think as people are finding the site and enjoying it and keep coming back, we'll be there. So excited for another year of this.
Yeah, me too. And next year we're bringing in Pigskin Paul. Of course, he's going to come on and start writing with us as well. So yeah, I mean, you'll have 5 distinct voices that all obviously think a lot differently about how things operate, NFL draft or not. And I think that's what makes us great. I mean, there's no real groupthink here. It's, we all see things our own way. We all have our different techniques of how we get to where we get, but ultimately it's all about bringing great content out to everybody. And we've done that this year, in both the written word and the podcast and everything. And, we had our best numbers. Our numbers nearly doubled this year from last year. So then that's a big thank you to everybody, man, that came out and did everything. And it's a great year. And I think the 2024 draft season is going to be even better.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So that's going to do it for the final episode of our season 2 edition of the Draft Countdown podcast. Follow me on Twitter at Deep Fried Draft. Follow Shane on Twitter at Shane P. Hallam. Follow Draft Countdown on Twitter at Draft Countdown, and go to draftcountdown.com and you can get all of Shane's rankings for 2024 up. You can look at 2024 mocks, 2025, 2026, all those rankings and everything are up. Go get familiarized with everybody that you're going to watch play during college football next season. But that's going to do it for tonight. For Shane, I'm Brian. Good night, everybody.